TomoNews presents Bees and Honey.
Are bees going extinct? Reports show high rate of U.S. bee deaths. Annual surveys have shown a trend in bee deaths in America. The Bee Informed Partnership has released its annual survey of the national health of bees in America, and yet again, the number of colonies is shrinking. The Bee Informed Partnership collected data from 5,700 beekeepers across 48 states for its annual survey, and found that from April 2015 to April 2016, American beekeepers have lost 44% of their hives. Losses in summer 2015, a season bees are known to thrive in, increased to 28.1% of hives, the same rate of loss for winter the same year. A culprit in the bee losses is the varroa mite, a lethal parasite that can easily spread between colonies. Pesticides and malnutrition caused by single flower farms near hives are also likely taking a toll, especially among commercial beekeepers. Bees pollinate fruit, nuts, and vegetables, with some crops entirely dependent on honeybees. Around the world, bees and other pollinators are responsible for 35% of crops, worth an incredible $577 billion. The White House reported that honeybees contribute more than $15 billion to the U.S. economy annually.
Asian giant hornets are one of the world's most venomous insects and should not be messed with. With a strong El Niño in 2016, parts of Asia may have more to worry about, as the extreme heat may bring about more aggressive attacks from the world's biggest hornet. Asian giant hornets, native to East and Southeast Asia, are about 4 to 5 centimeters long, with roughly 1 centimeter long stingers. The Vespa mandarinia tend to target bees, but have been known to attack humans when disturbed. They're able to travel up to 100 kilometers at speeds of 40 kilometers an hour, much faster than a person can run. In 2013, 42 people died and more than 1,000 others were injured after a vicious spate of attacks by Asian giant hornets in China's Shanxi province. Hornets sting their victims repeatedly, releasing a potent venom containing 8 different chemicals that attract more hornets to the victim, potentially causing anaphylactic shock and renal failure. Experts advise that the best way to be safe is to steer clear of any nests, which are often located underground or in tree stumps.
Japanese woman finds giant Asian hornet creeping in her closet. Ever heard of a giant Asian hornet? Or as the Japanese call it, suzumebachi, which translates to sparrow bee. Though this massive bug may be fascinating to marvel at in pictures, it was a frightening sight for a woman in Japan who discovered one in her bedroom earlier this week. When she opened her closet to grab some clothes, there it was, crawling around on her green sweater. The giant Asian hornet isn't exactly Godzilla, but it's pretty big for a bug. An adult Asian hornet can grow up to 2 to 3 inches in length with a wingspan of roughly 3 inches. And suzumebachi isn't just huge, it's deadly. It's said to be able to kill as many as 40 honeybees in one strike. And when it attacks humans, it can be straight up nasty. Its venom is so toxic, its sting can dissolve human tissue, sending victims into anaphylactic shock, which could then lead to painful death. Luckily for the Japanese woman, she somehow managed to catch it and dispose of it safely. Reports indicate the hornet was also unharmed. Giant Asian hornets are native to the mountains of Japan, and unsuspecting humans should pray. That's where those humongous buzzers will choose to stay.
Thousands of bees swarm over Indonesia airplane's wing. This awesome and terrifying sight, caught on film and uploaded to Instagram last Friday afternoon, shows what looks like thousands of bees swarming over a CityLink Indonesia airplane's right wing. This plane landed at around 11:40 a.m. and was heading toward its parking spot when passengers noticed their vessel was surrounded by a swarm of bees. The bee swarm formed a thick black cloud and clung to the plane's wing as they created a nest. According to CityLink's vice president, the bees were later removed from the aircraft when water was sprayed onto the wing with a fire hose. And the removal process only caused a 90-minute delay. The vice president theorized that logging practices that have disrupted the bees' natural habitat may have forced them to look for a new home, in this case on the wing of a plane. No passengers were harmed in the incident. The same probably can't be said for the bees. Local Utah news media are abuzz over the discovery of an enormous beehive in the aptly named Beehive State. Cabin owner Paul Bertinoli became concerned when he noticed several honeybees in his house. Experts Vic Bachman and his partner were stunned when they found a beehive that was 16 inches deep, 4 feet wide, and 12 feet long. That's taller than Carmelo Anthony. The bees were smoked for pacification before they were collected with a vacuum cleaner. About 60,000 bees were collected, weighing an incredible 15 pounds in total. The cost of the removal, $600, must have stung, but at least the bees weren't harmed, and their home was reconstructed in another location. Most of the world's honey has pesticides in it. Are you getting enough insecticides in your daily diet? Well, looks like honey is a sweet source for it. Neonicotinoid pesticides are showing up in honey on every continent with honeybees. Around 200 samples of honey were tested, and 75% were found to contain measurable levels of at least one of the 5 common neonicotinoids. The insecticide works by targeting crop-destroying insects' central nervous system. A number of studies have also found that the insecticide reduces and weakens honeybee hives. Pesticide levels varied between regions. In North America, 86% of samples contain pesticides, Asia, 80%, Europe, 79%, Africa, 73%, the Australian region, 71%, and South America, 57%. Bees and other pollinators are necessary to 3/4 of the world's food crops, but have been declining in number in recent decades. Destruction of wild habitats, disease, and massive pesticide use are all contributing factors.
Here's some news that won't give you a buzz. Popular pesticides used on common crops prevent bees from laying eggs and could eventually cause bee populations to die out. That would be a disaster for us humans because we rely on bees to pollinate much of our food. A group of pesticides known as neonicotinoids are used on some of the most commonly grown crops in the US, including corn, soybean, and canola. According to a study in the UK, the neonicotinoid thiamethoxam is harmful to bee populations. The study showed that in laboratory conditions, bumblebee queens exposed to the pesticide were 26% less likely to lay eggs. However, the study said that other factors in the wild, such as the loss of wildflowers, parasites, or climate change, may also have a harmful impact on bee populations. Without queen bees laying eggs, there would be no bee colonies, so the results of the study are likely to lead to further calls to restrict the use of pesticides. Neonicotinoids were temporarily banned in the European Union in 2013, and the EU may now decide to make that ban permanent.
Obama unveils plan to save honeybees from extinction. On Tuesday, the Obama administration unveiled a strategy intended to stop beehive colony collapse in the United States. Bees pollinate much of the agricultural food we eat, but 40% of commercial honeybee colonies died off last winter, putting our food supply at risk. The White House's plan, to be carried out by the USDA and EPA, includes devoting 7 million acres of federal land to pollinator habitat, reducing annual honeybee deaths to 15% by 2025, and returning monarch butterfly numbers from 30 million to 220 million in 5 years. The plan also calls for more studies of the class of pesticides known as neonicotinoids, which kill pests but might also weaken bee immune systems. Weaker bees are more easily killed by invasive varroa destructor mites and poor nutrition from monocultural farming practices. Critics of the plan say it focuses too narrowly on commercial honeybees out of 4,000 bee species in North America, and that there is no specific action plan to increase butterfly numbers. Finally, some insist neonic pesticides should be banned immediately, though Australia, which is free of varroa mites, uses neonics yet has avoided colony collapse.
Hawaiian bees getting a helping hand from Uncle Sam. The U.S. government has added 7 species of Hawaiian bee to the endangered species list. They are the first U.S. bee species to be protected under the Endangered Species Act. The 7 endangered species of bees live in many habitats on the Hawaiian Islands, including coastlines, wet and dry forests, and shrublands. Bees are vital to human beings as they are one of the world's major pollinators. Without bees pollinating, about 30% of the world's crops and 90% of wild plants would die. Bees are dying at an alarming rate on the mainland of the U.S. as well, with 20 to 40% of honeybee colonies disappearing every winter. Hawaiian yellow-faced bees are threatened by urbanization, fire, wild animals such as pigs and invasive ants, and plant species. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service said the decision came after years of research. The new rule is effective on October 31st.
Amateur beekeepers in London are trying to help stop the widespread decline of the bee population. Bees in the UK and worldwide have been dying in droves. Environmentally conscious Londoners have been trying to help the problem by keeping bees on their outdoor spaces. Unfortunately, London lacks sufficient flowers for all the new bees, forcing bees to compete for the few flowers there are, with the result that most bees in London will starve. By contrast, US cities have plenty of pollen for their bees, but nearly no crops that need pollinating.